You're listening to Ignite Your Success, a podcast that inspires fitness professionals to build a strong business that enables them to serve more people and engineer the lifestyle they desire. It's Brad Shepherd here, and together with Jason Ubanowicz, we're best known for running Trainer HQ, a community of passionate and profit-hungry fitness business owners that make a massive difference in others' lives every day. Each episode will unpack for you exactly what's working and deliver best practice strategies so you can confidently grow your business and make a huge impact. Hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Trainer HQ podcast. And today I'm joined by one of my fitness industry colleagues, a very special guest, someone I've known for many, many years in the game, Mr. Roger Westerman. Welcome, sir.
Good to be here, Brad.
Mate, bloody great to have you along. This is a long time coming, this, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we've actually been talking about this for a while, so it's great to be finally here,
Yeah, now, mate, you've done a lot of things in the fitness industry, and we're going to unpack that on today's podcast. But as it stands right now, you are the CEO of World Gym Australia.
Correct.
Yeah, been in that role for about the last 2 years.
Yeah, over 2 years now.
Yeah. Now,
They call me Rog, by the way.
Rog.
If anyone ever calls me Roger, I'm normally I've been in the shit for something.
Roger it is. Yeah. So, mate, you got an exciting announcement. So tell us a bit of the latest at World Gym Australia.
Yeah, well, look, it was only just announced yesterday. It's something we've obviously been working on for some time. But Viva Leisure has actually acquired 25% of World Gym Australia. That's really exciting. It's been publicly announced. And I think that gives them a 25% share. But in short, what it's going to do is it's going to provide an accelerated opportunity for our current growth. And also, Harry's renowned for a lot of innovative stuff. And I'm pretty excited to do the collaboration, see how that, at least from the tech side, how that's going to actually work for us as well.
Phenomenal, mate. A huge achievement. Now, there'll be plenty of people tuning into this who've probably heard the name Viva Leisure, but not 100% clear on what clubs and sit under Viva Leisure. So can you give us a bit of an update on that? Who's currently inside that group?
Well, I mean, if you actually, let's just put it this way, Harry's actually, he started, he's got an interesting story. He's from the tech space as well. So, if you really look at it, he's just acquired a number of different businesses. Obviously, Club Lime is probably one that everyone's really familiar with. I never forget I was part of the opening of Fitness First in Wollongong. And I remember when I finally drove back down to Wollongong one day, this building was all green. And I think that was one of the early stages of when Harry rolled out Club Lime. So he started that, and obviously that's grown exponentially. You can throw in Plus Fitness, everyone would know that. It's got an amazing footprint as well. There's other brands that they've actually connected. They're just opening wellness as well, space. But read it on the announcement. But with World Gym, I think this will take them over like 550 locations.
Wow.
In Australia. So
it's huge. It's impressive. Yeah, it's big names there, and we'll double back to Club Lime because Healthworks on the river.
Oh yeah,
Tenerife in Brisbane, where I used to reside, and you know that place very well.
Yeah,
is that's also a Club Lime now. So everywhere you go, there's a Club Lime. So
yeah, Harry's everywhere. Right.
Super cool. Now you didn't start at World Gym, but mate, you started in the game many years ago. So. Let's backtrack all the way back to, mate, how did you actually get launched in the industry? I'm keen to know.
Well, yeah, it's probably well before most people have been born. It's in the last century. But look, in short, sport has always been my thing. Played in many sports, competed in martial arts and surfing and skiing and what have you. And ultimately, I started off doing a uni degree in arts, but then I gravitated to the sports degree because I just wanted to do something I was passionate about. So I did a sports degree, which was originally set up for all those athletes at the Institute of Sport. So they've actually got a career beyond their sport.
Yeah.
And there was either coaching, there was sports psychology and administration. So I did a combination of admin and coaching. And during that time, I was working as a trainer at a club in Canberra. You've got to remember, back in those days, personal training really hadn't started off.
That's right. Can you remember exactly what year that was, or roughly?
Well, it will scare the people to listen to. It was back in the 80s, right? But I was the head trainer, and those days we used to do flexibility tests, the VO2. It was a full service. So getting paid reasonably well to be what they call the gym instructor. So you're doing writing programs. So it was a really good introduction into writing programs that were going to get results for people. And that was the space of it. But, I never forget rocking up to the club one day and there was bloody people out the front. The doors were chained and I was ready to open the club and people had the shits like there was no one there. The owners had been taking money, like paid in full memberships up until the day before. They'd nicked off. So, and I'm there left to actually, deal with all these angry people that lost their money in memberships. So it wasn't a real career opportunity in the industry in those days. They were single owner operators. The banks didn't actually think there was any value in our industry. So from my perspective, at uni, I thought, there was a life-changing moment for me during my degree, which actually is one of the defining moments for where I am today. And that was, in short, that, I got asked by a headmaster of a school, because I used to be involved heavily into skiing. And she asked me whether I'd be able to volunteer to take a busload of mentally and physically handicapped kids to the snow and teach them how to ski. I got to tell you that I actually put my hand up straight away. I said, yeah, I'm going to do this. And the moment I went to get on the bus, it was really confronting. I almost thought, what the hell have I got myself into? They wanted to hug me. They wanted to be in my space. And when we got to the lodge at Guthiga, they actually wanted to share the room. And it was confronting. But the experience as the week went on, what I gained out of it was far greater than probably what they got. But one of the everlasting memories that I had from it was watching these guys were tumbling, they were falling over, head in the snow. It was like something out of a movie. But ultimately, it gave me a sense of, wanting to make a difference. I made a difference in their lives. Yeah. So that steered me to the fact that I want to do something that's going to make a difference. So it wasn't a really opportunity for career. So I actually was going to join one of the military. My wife and I we met at uni. We decided, okay, we'll go into we looked at the Air Force and the Army. And they turned around and said, you'll make a fantastic PTI, And they said, my wife, she's going in as a sworn officer. And I said, well, does that mean if I want to go to a party, I've got to get approval? They said, yeah. So I said, stuff that. And I joined the police. And, I'm a musician. I played, in bands, everything. And the police at the time said, you can't do the band music, but you can continue to work as a trainer. So during my career in law enforcement, I continued to work I started off working as a PT outside in different gyms. I'd pull kids off the street, take them to the PCYC where I was working at. I was teaching classes there, circuits. I was training rugby league players and stuff, doing PT. And then ultimately I started training the police as well.
Phenomenal. So we must be into the 1990s now.
Yeah, 1990. And look, I got to a point where I'd pretty much done some incredibly exciting, scary stuff in different areas of law enforcement. Yeah. That's another whole story. And I chose to go back in the industry. In fact, I was going to go back and be a PE teacher. And Healthland came to Australia, which is the precursor to Fitness First. They picked me up and they actually they employed me as a fitness manager for the group. And I remember going down to Sydney, and this is when they opened the first club at Sylvania, which was a Healthland. And actually, I ran into Andrew Simmons the other day. That was the guys in red shirts walked in, and there was trainers there as well. And that was the first. That's before Vision started.
And those who don't know, Andrew Simmons runs Vision PT, very highly successful PT studio operation, franchise operation.
Yeah, they had the swagger. They were really, really cool. And look, ultimately what happened there is we probably all know, if you don't know, that Tony DeLead came along. He's well known, just got recognised in the industry. He picked up Healthland. One of my mates was actually redeveloping his club in Brisbane. Actually, Leon, who owns Total Fusion.
Yep.
And he rang me up when I was working for Healthland. He said, Rogers, it's all gone, and he was probably a week away from losing everything. In actual fact, I remember us bringing up saying, you can come and move your family into my place, my humble abode. But that's another story in itself. But anyway, the short of that was then that Fitness First came along.
Yeah.
And they picked me up and they flew me down to Sydney. And basically, I got involved in assisting in opening clubs. the Wollongong one. I worked at Randwick's, at different various clubs. And I was lined up to open the first Fitness First club at Lutwyche in Queensland, which we did. And it's amazing. It's the golden era because we opened that club with over 4,000 members.
Wow.
It was insane. There was no competition.
And back then, Lutwyche, because I mean we were just literally down the road, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that would have been 1999, maybe 2000.
Yeah, it was prior to 2000, so it was in the late 90s,
maybe 98. Yeah. And I mean Lutwyche back then was again not like a really I'm not sure if you would use the word affluent area, right? But it was up and coming, right? There was plenty of inner city money and so forth. And I imagine the pre-sale on that would have been huge with 4,500 people.
Look, it was insane. But I never forget this old mate walking down the road and he said, what are you doing here, mate? And I said, mate, we're opening a gym. And he turns around and he goes, about time we get some bloody new good welterweight boxers in here. So their understanding of a gym, that mentality was, not a health club. It was actually, so that was a really cool opportunity. And look, that club went nuts. I must admit that I had a great time working for that group. I loved working for those guys.
Yeah.
They copped a bit of flack just because I think they were the tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
But what happened then was one of my good mates that I made friends with rang me up and said, look, I'm actually thinking about opening another club. Can you come and have a look at it and see what you think of it? And I never forget driving over to this club, which became the first of Goodlife clubs. And it was a rundown old club. No one actually took any interest in me at all at the time. And the treadmills used to face a brick wall of all things, you know what I mean? And anyway, it was a health work.
This is the old health works Barden. But for those who haven't been to Barden, it's sort of off to the west of Brisbane. Still, 6-7 k's from the city, but leafy sort of suburb, isn't it? But this was a sleepy old club, wasn't it?
But you get lost trying to find the place, I walked out of there and I said to Lee on the day, I said, mate, with a bit of the right people, the right training, it's obviously a successful club. I think this could be a great club. And he said, what would it take for you to come over, and make it happen? So I actually, when I left Fitness First, I still laugh about this. I still respect. They actually paid. I think they want to get rid of me. They paid for my whole family to go on a holiday as I left as an exit.
Yeah.
And that was the start of the Good Life thing.
Wow. And this must have been into 2000, like 2001?
In 2001. And look, I remember actually sitting on the floor as we opened the first club and I said, how many of these do you think we'll do? And he said, mate, until we stop having fun. It was about making a dollar, but ultimately having, a really good bit of fun in the process. So the model was actually to take distressed businesses.
Yeah.
And I would recruit, train them, the PTs, right through the whole thing and turn those businesses around.
Yeah, phenomenal. I want to dive more into the Good Life experience, but let's special mention to, you mentioned Leon McNeese.
Yeah.
Me and you both know, good mate of yours. I've had the privilege of hanging out with him a bit, of late going to training with him at his new club. He turns 60 next year, and geez, he's an animal, that guy, isn't he? Just like such a beast.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, one of the fundamental things from my whole life journey, particularly I've been working in law enforcement and everything, one of my big things about recruitment is trust. And he's a great mate. If he hears this, he's probably going to get a swollen head. That's okay. But he's an incredibly insightful entrepreneur, and he's also been always at the forefront of businesses. So, when we started the start of those clubs, we actually brought on the CMS, which we actually flew over to Montana, of all places. We flown into this little country town with windswept area out in the sticks. And we're going to stay at these dormitories. And what it was a conference. And he said, I want you to look at we're going to spend a bit of time, look at the programs, the systems that they've got for the clubs. And if you like it, we'll stay. If you don't, we'll go to Vegas. Well, I'm thinking, well, I know sales, I know systems. I'm thinking, shit, this is just going to be a quick exit. We're off to Vegas, you know what I mean? And I think much to his surprise, I've been there for a few hours, and there were some big industry hitters there. And I said, mate, we're staying. This is good. And what it meant was CMS stood for Club Marketing Management Systems. It was before the digital age, but it was a whole complete library of resources.
A system.
A system.
Yeah.
And we adopted those into our clubs. And it's interesting, as we were growing the chain of the Goodlife, I actually was started at the same time I was consulting. So I was basically picking up clients. I was doing talks around Australia about how to build your clubs. And I had independent club owners coming to me. So I had, I think, between 40 and 50 independent club owners across Australia and New Zealand that
who adopted the CMS system.
Yeah, and
you coached and mentored. One of those being Andrew Wilkinson down at Healthworks on the River. And that was a time to be a new met, right?
So 100%. I remember walking in there, and Andrew got me in there, and he said, I've got this guy here. He's a top trainer, Brad Shepard. I said, yeah, I've heard about him. He's killing it. And he said, look, what I need is I'd like to have some systems for our trainers as well. So you obviously, there's an interesting situation.
Yeah.
Because you're sort of cohabitating.
It was very unique. When I went there, at the time I was moving from one gym to another. And I had a team of like 6 trainers, and so we were doing 100+ sessions a week, and it was a big significant move. And I didn't really fancy opening up my own gym or studio. It was like I love the nature of the gym. Anyway, many conversations, many gyms, and then Andrew was the one. He's like, all right, I've got my team of trainers. I'll let you guys in, but here's the rules, right? Number 1, all the new member sign-ups, they go to my team. Number 2, you can make relationships, prospect the gym floor, do what you like, but all the new people come to us, right? So I had to get really good at every time I sold in a PT, I was selling a gym membership as well. So
is that right?
Yeah, that was the rule. So I had to get graded external marketing and bring people in because again, it was July 1, 2002. I moved in there.
Yeah,
and like you said, back then there was no digital marketing, there was no Facebook, none of that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, and to this day, I still talk about that experience, and it's a credit to you because you actually changed the culture and certainly you've set a benchmark. And I'm not just trying to give you the thumbs up here. It's recognition and acknowledgement you just well deserved. For anyone listening to actually appreciate that membership there, the ratio, I think there was about 12 to 1,300 members at the time. And if you think about it today, by today's standards, most clubs, big clubs have got somewhere between 2 to 5, 6,000, and they're roughly running with about 10 to 12 rental trainers, right?
That's right.
So you think about the ratio of trainer to members. Well, think about this. At Healthworks, every third person was doing PT, either with you or...
That's right.
But I think, Andrew brought me on because he wanted to increase some tools and training, but ultimately... You still took them anyway, but it was an exciting thing, and it was a benchmark. And it's interesting because I actually was developing the PT in our own business at the same time, and it got to a point all of a sudden that we were growing more clubs, and I had all these clients across Australia and New Zealand. And Leon turned around and he said, "Right, you've got to make a decision. You either want to focus on the consulting these clients, which I love doing, or building this other business." And so I basically farmed my clients off to other consultants and then went full steam with Goodlife.
Yeah, phenomenal. And so with Goodlife, how many clubs did Goodlife get to during that period? Yeah,
well, in my brain, until I left there, I left when we had 43 clubs.
43,
yeah. And look, the thing was, it's interesting, we were never for sale. It was the fact that we actually, I actually think it's fair to say we actually adopted a really, really solid business model. So we had fantastic ROI. The banks loved us. Our brand wasn't that great, but there was businesses out there that had fantastic brand, but their business wasn't running right.
Yeah. So you had the numbers right, the model was right, the systems were right.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, what we do is I'd go out and acquire businesses out there that had a good brand. They weren't being run effectively, and we could rebrand them. And so it comes back down to everything about marketing as well. I always say, look, I'm spending 80% on lead gen and 20% on brand. The brand's going to grow.
Yeah.
But if you haven't got a successful business, first and foremost, then the brand means nothing.
That's right. Yeah. And can you remember going from, let's say, that first club at Barton? How long before you got to 3 or 4? Can you remember that? Was it slow burn? Did it happen quickly, or
it happened pretty quickly?
Yeah.
And basically because we identified a couple of other clubs that were actually stressed. So we'd go out there, we'd do our own feasibility studies. We'd literally do a drive time, convenience. And I would look through and I'd talk to the staff, get a feel for it. I'd actually train there, just the usual sort of stuff, get a vibe for the place. And then you go, okay, what's the essence of this business? What's it missing? Not just the fact of making it, beautifying it with cool gear and painting the walls, but what's the fundamentals that it's missing? And generally, we all know this, that, the most important asset in your business is the people, and the greatest risk to the business is not having the right people there. So that became the modus operandi for us, and we grew pretty quickly. But every time we grew by about 9 clubs, I remember traveling around the world, and I'd ask different owners out there, how did you overcome this problem at this point? And interestingly enough, there wasn't many people that were forthcoming with their solutions. So we made a few mistakes along the way, and some hard lessons, but ultimately it was great.
And great philosophy to go and look for the opportunities there, because I guess it's a bit like the concept of buying a property, right? So you go and look, okay, is there a death, a divorce, distress, something along those lines, right? You go, okay, is there a problem, and can I provide a solution to it, which is what you guys are doing. You also mentioned the banks loved you too. So, because I guess what I picture, and probably a lot of people tuning into this, those who aspire to do this go, okay, that's going to take some money, but I imagine what you're able to do is use other people's money, i.e. the banks, to be able to acquire those. And in some instances, you would potentially go in with a limited amount of capital up front to take over. Is that how it's played out?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you speak to Leon today, I pretty much expect that he would say, I won't invest $1 if I can't be able to borrow $1 from the bank. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's that leverage that you get. I mean, when you first start out, everyone's waiting to see what you're going to achieve, your track record, your business model. But ultimately, that's where you're going, is that leverage. When you think about, at first we actually had a model of distressed clubs, but I still recall that when we opened Holland Park, that stands out as a milestone. It was early in the piece. But that was originally a set of squash courts, but it was going to be the first time that was partly majorly almost a greenfield development, because most of it was all brand new. So the capital investment in that was significant. And I still remember one of the directors sort of saying, we actually had a manager lined up to do it. At the last moment, they pulled out, and they said, well, he's going to have to go and open that, don't you, Rog? And we had a number in mind that we needed to achieve. And I still remember, and he said to me, you better get this right, there's no pressure. Well, that statement alone put a lot of pressure on me. But I never forget, we went to open just before Christmas of all things, and they didn't have phase 3 power in the street. So we bloody hired an old ice cream truck, which had the power cord come out. It'd start up with diesel, this thing would be puffing away. And we'd open the pub powered by this phase 3 thing. So, and that was the tipping point I think, for the earliest days of Goodlife. If we hadn't achieved the success there, because there's so much riding up from the capital, it would have actually hemorrhaged our cash flow and debt. And I think from thereafter, that gave us the confidence that we could do greenfield developments and new developments.
Yeah, phenomenal, so good. And how many Goodlife eventually got bought out, didn't they?
Yeah, they got.
So I don't really know the full story.
Oh, look, I mean, it's quite an interesting story behind it.
A number of chapters to it, I imagine.
There's a number of chapters. We got bought out originally by a Colonial, a really great private equity company. But after about 18 months, they actually said, look, we're out of this. And it was really quite a stressful period, because for a window of time, there was only about 3 or 4 of us that knew that, well, we're now up for sale. And there's a number of people that were buying us or wanted to buy us. And you've got to understand, we created this vibe, this culture. The last thing you want to do is you want to take what has been, a great, cool place to work, and it just becomes a financial number. So ultimately, we got bought by Macquarie, which is Ardent Leisure, that owned Dreamworld and all these other ones.
Yes.
That actually, that was a different feel to it. But that was a significant, I think that was 60 million at the time. But I think the guys actually bought me a Harley, believe it or not, as a way of saying thanks. But it was really cool. And then obviously, if you track on from there, I think the next purchase when it got bought post me being there was 250 million. Yeah. And it's gone on, and Greg Oliver and the guys there have done amazing things with that.
Yeah, amazing. Such a great story. Hey, what an experience for you.
Yeah, it was great to be part of it. But there's other journeys there. I mean, Leon then, when I was part of obviously Snap, I went and opened a stack of Snap clubs myself.
Yeah.
And that was another journey too.
You took ownership in some of those as well?
Yeah. I was involved in 5 clubs as well.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that we actually had in 2011, when that floods hit, it was a pretty sad state of affairs, because one of the directors, I was told the night before that we were covered by insurance, and one of the directors actually got his truck and went out and helped a competitor move all their gear out of their gym.
Yeah.
And the next morning, our gym actually had pitbulls squashed into the roof, only to get a phone call to say, I've just heard you're actually not covered by insurance for this.
Oh my God.
And, it was an incredibly tough situation.
Yeah.
But my wife was really distressed by it. And as we drove down it was actually our Bell Barry, when we went out there, no one knew we were coming, but we went down there. And I think the other partners were looking at exiting. But we went down there, and the community were waiting there. They're actually out there with buckets and spades. Yeah. And they actually said, please come back. And it was actually, we all embraced it. It was a really emotional moment.
Yeah.
And I never forget, there was a supplier out there that actually offered me cash money straight away. I didn't take it, but the fact that he offered it, he wasn't even preferred supplier for Snap at the time.
Yeah.
And he offered to provide equipment, for no cost, to go in there, because I still had to pay out the lease of all that equipment. So,
yeah, wow.
He probably lost about $500,000 in that flood alone.
Wow. It's amazing. And especially given the fact that you thought that you were covered.
And look, you throw in the mix of that. I was involved in a couple of other brands. One, there was a business adjoining one of our other clubs. That was going not too well, and just mysteriously that caught fire. So then our business caught fire. That gym caught fire.
Oh my God!
You can say you're covered by insurance, but the cost of that hits you as well. So you have a couple of those things hit you at once, and
there's not only the economic cost of it, but it's the downtime, isn't it? Because it's the loss of revenue and the business got run, right?
Well, it's all those things. I mean, but ultimately, if you really are passionate about doing it, first and foremost, I go back to my original point. I wanted to make a difference. So the reason is that it's the community that it serves. It's all those people that depend on you for a wage or salary. It's their livelihood as well, and it's all the greater aspects. So the implications and ramifications for that of those clubs being shut for a period of time. Yes, big economic, but it's also a big personal cost.
Yeah, big ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It affects every single person involved and so forth. And what attracted you to World Gym?
Well, okay, probably need to go just before that. Obviously, when Leon actually opened his first Total Fusion, I sort of got invited to come here, and I helped set up the operations. That was really cool. He sort of went through a period where it was sort of wasn't going through the growth, and I'm one of those people that I don't. If I feel that I can't contribute during that period, and I want to be involved in growth things. Yeah. So I exited, even though the great mates would have loved to have been part of that. Obviously, they've done incredible things now. But through the COVID situation, look, I was actually retreated it to one of our houses, and I was basically doing talks around Australia through COVID on behalf. It was really talking to not just the fitness industry, but recreation. And that was about the opportunities that were going to lie going outside of it, because, I was actually in Singapore as COVID hit, right? I was actually a CEO of a tech company, believe it or not. Yeah, it was a wellness app. This is going back just as COVID hit. I'll never forget I checked into a hotel at Singapore, and this guy comes out with this gun, which is the temperature gun. He stuck this on my forehead. I said, what the hell's going on? Yes. And it was the start of COVID. And I remember going to the board meeting the next day, beautiful overlooking where the F1 is over there, and I was actually asking the board for another $2.4 million for the next round of development of this app. Yeah. And I got it, but we didn't know where COVID was going to go. And then the next board meeting, I went for more money, and they said, we don't know where this is going to go. What's the right thing to do? And I said, mothball it. So that was a piece for me, which was a really exciting piece, that tech today has been surpassed with AI and everything well. So you can't go back and unpack it and do it again. So I was doing all these guest speaking, and what happened was I've known John for over 24 years. He used to actually, for those that don't know, he was He was on Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, he was pound for pound one of Australia's best international bodybuilders.
Yeah, a great guy. And I've respected him for a long time, followed his journey, and he used to supply. He worked with Masashi. He actually, I think he actually wrote.
Didn't he own Masashi at one time?
He owned the distributorship, but he actually, I think he actually designed some of the drinks there, the mixes. He actually, he's just a wealth of knowledge in that space. And he used to supply our clubs with supplements many, many years ago, back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think he actually,
and for anyone who's tuning into this, Big John Davey, he'd be the co-owner of World Gym Australia, is that right?
Co-founder.
Two main owners.
Yeah, co-founder. Yeah. John and Mike. Yeah, amazing guys. And, John actually obviously realised that he thought, I could make more money out of what we're doing to these guys. And of course, Mike Nyston, I didn't only met him at the very start, but a huge guy too. He's a power towels. I think he's looks like he's 7 foot. He's about 6'5". I think he was 138 kilos at his biggest. So these are two giants,
units.
And look, it was interesting. I got a phone call. I'd actually been offered I actually wasn't looking for any roles, but I got offered a role. I was doing consulting, as well through this space. So I basically had a number of clients that startup businesses, mentoring people in different industries, but also the fitness industry. And out of the blue, I got this call, and they were looking for a particular person. They had some candidates, and I at the same time, believe it or not, just one of those things where it rains a pause. I got offered a role with another great brand. But the attraction, I spoke to the guys and it resonated, I think, on both sides.
Yeah.
And so, they sort of say they've got me out of semi-retirement to come back and be involved with them,
That's so cool. Yeah, such an iconic brand too. And when did the first World Gym Australia under JD and Mike's?
Yeah, it goes back 19 years now, back to this, so I think it was, you're going to catch me on the technical question now, but to do the mental math here.
Yeah.
But they started off, the original was at Penrith and then Nashville.
Yeah, there you go. And there was a World Gym brand here originally, because when I moved to Brisbane, I was 15 years old, 1990, and there was a World Gym in Edward Street in the city.
Yeah.
It eventually became a Goodlife.
Yeah.
And I lived out in Strathpine, which is a half-hour train ride. And what I got told was that the Mr. Queenslands, they'd all been given a membership at World Gym. So I used to catch a train every day from school into World Gym in the city, train with the big guys. And because I was in grade 10 there, 15 years old, wide-eyed. And, it was like a dream come true. And a guy named Alan Bloor owned that. He's a champ of guy. But then the brand it wasn't around for a period of time. I remember there's one in Toowoomba for a while, and then it's like it had this resurgence, hasn't it?
Yeah, look, I think there was some businesses that in the very early days, there's even some merchandise that probably wasn't under license.
Yeah, gotcha.
So if you hear John and Mike talk, they'll actually say that they were actually told that the brand wouldn't work in Australia, too hardcore, too aggressive, and all that sort of stuff. And it's always had this perception of just being all bodybuilding. Well, the bodybuilding represents a very small percentage of it. There's some big guys in there, sure, but none of the marketing's promoted that way. And, if you look at the demographic that's there today, it's actually 50-50 female to male. So it's actually obviously from the sidelines, I've followed the brand. And if you think about Joe Gold started Golds, sold it, and then started World Gym. So pretty amazing to have that sort of iconic brand. But for me, looking from the outside, it's a really on point brand. And, even with the brands that I've been involved in the past, I wasn't walking around in a shirt or a pair of pants that was really displaying the brand. Whereas you see people not just going to the gym with the World Gym brand on, you actually see them out the street wearing it proudly, just as everyday wear.
Yeah.
So the brand is a really, people recognise, because look, let's face it, strength is always been the important aspect of the journey of health and fitness.
Yeah.
There was a perception for a long time, as you would know, with women, I'm just going to get too big.
Correct.
And now
that's completely shifted. It was in the last 5 to 10 years, let's say, right?
Well, I mean, when I did my degree, I thought I was going to train elite athletes. And ultimately, I ended up training my biggest clients in my PT sightings. I was training women that were overweight. And of course, what would I be training them on? Strength, and identifying those areas. So it's really, really cool to see that aspect of the business and the journey where the industry's at today, particularly if you're a trainer too.
Yeah, the amount of times I heard it 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and I'm sitting down in front of a lady and I'm getting her ready for personal training, and she's like, "Yeah, I'd like to train, but I don't want to look like you."
Yeah.
Hey, don't worry, right? So we're gonna work your ass off to get any bit of muscle and strength, right? So,
well, I mean, I think I said to you at your recent event, which was amazing, and it was quite inspiring to be with all your clients there. Some of them have been there for 8 years with you, so credit to you. But, the second defining moment for me in the industry, and I've always said this to people, is that, people can go and study their anatomy. I mean, as I've said, I've stood in front of a room of 60 trainers of varying levels of experience and, talking about what it is to be successful as a trainer. And, one time somebody they started saying to me as a group that knowledge was the most important thing. So I said, okay, no worries. Well, where's the flexor digitorum superficialis muscle? Now, believe it or not one person in that room could actually work out where it was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I'd say, okay, where's the sartorius muscle and so on? And I said, so if your knowledge was the most important thing, you haven't even answered the question. I said, I did my anatomy 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But I said, let me just tell you a short story that really is important for you to understand, because obviously anatomy is important if you've got someone with a specific injury or need that you're working. Could be a sports-specific lifestyle exercise they want to improve on. But I said, the game changer for me was I was always about this physical transformation until a lady walked into the gym, 45 kilos overweight. And she just had this deadpan look on her face, and I just was at the counter. I said, hey, I'm Rog. I'll be with you every step of the way. Congratulations on coming in. And she started to cry. And I suddenly started going through my mind, did I say something else? Did I swear? Was I offensive? I'm thinking, I'm going to get the sack here. And I took her around to the side room. In those days, we used to do all those tests. And because she was so big, I'm not going to do the VO2 test and stuff. And I just said, listen, now that you're here, I'm not going to let you go. I'm going to be with you every step of the way. I'm just going to take the girth measurement, but then I'm going to be with you every step. And she started to cry.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I actually had a bit of a teary eye there too, because it suddenly dawned on me what was going on here, that, you can actually get results. We always talk about thinking about the results, and we think about results in terms of a physical transformation, and you think of about a period of time. But I got to the stage, Brad, and I know you had your circle of excellence, but I wasn't as technically skilled as you. Probably didn't have the ability to get the same amount of money as what you charged. But I did increase my rate. But one of the things that I did say was my conversion rate was pretty good. I basically guaranteed every person that I trained that I'd get results in the first 2 weeks. And people used to say, how can you do that? Well, I tell them the story about this woman because I said, she actually walked in 40 kilos overweight. She actually walked out physically 40 kilos overweight, but she felt emotionally and mentally 40 kilos lighter. So what's the shift? A shift in the mindset. She had a mindset growth. She also had a sense that, okay, here's someone actually cares about me, that trusts me, and she trusts in me too. So to me, I think that's something that needs to be really emphasised for everyone out there, and particularly for the trainers out there, that when you're actually thinking about your programming with people, if you can actually, if you can have that, build that rapport and that connection from the very start and that sense of trust, you're halfway through solving the solution. You know what I mean? Because I think I wrote programs for thousands of people, trained hundreds of people, not thousands of people. And there would have only been probably I trained boxers and a ballet dancer, people with incredible physiques, but only a handful ever thought that their shit didn't stink. Most of them all had some sort of complaint about themselves.
Yeah, coachable. Open to suggestions, ideas, and so forth. Yeah, so powerful and such a great thing to share, because it is. I mean, and it's for anyone now. Like I think, what was your secret? Well, did I do anything magic? All that sort of stuff. Or we could get people into shape, but most importantly, you put your heart and your soul into it, and it's like the amount of attention you give, the care you give. It's just, you can't put a price on that, can you?
Well, Brad, again, I got to have a chance I spoke to some of your clients post breaks, everything, and there was a guy there, he will remain nameless, but he actually said that he never had the self-worth or self-value or self-confidence that they could achieve what they were going to achieve. And it's actually, obviously you've got a great system, but also you've got a great connection. And that actually was really inspiring. And I now, you followed me on Insta, I follow, and I'm actually watching the journey, the stories. And it actually is refreshing to know that people are following that journey. And as I make the point, you've had it, I've certainly had it too, that people have said to me, you've changed my life. And it wasn't that I did anything extraordinary, but what people need to remember is that one thought, one word, one action can actually affect an extraordinary result. And the funny thing is, most times it's something that you least suspect. I've actually, some of my clients in the past, that I've been mentoring, they've said, "Oh, I can't believe what you just said. It was that was just an absolute wisdom bomb."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, really? It's probably a mistake that, I made in life. And as a result of that, I go, well, so I think you can underscore the value of your life experience.
Yeah, so good, so good. What for those of you tuning in, what Roger's referring to is our Inspire event. We had down the Gold Coast the other week, all of our clients along. We had guest speakers, and Roger came along and represented as part of the panel, along with our good mate Tim West, who runs UBX, and Beck Millwood. And so, mate, it was just absolute pleasure to have you there, and most importantly, sharing. And then hanging back with the gang dinner, I looked over, you're in your element there, just having a ball with all the gang, right?
So, well, mate, the only thing was missing was the band. I don't remember the band there, but you mentioned those great panelists that you had there. They're fantastic. But Westy, I mean, he actually was one of my original longest. He started me back at Fitness First. He started with as a trainer. He was probably one of my longest serving trainers ever. And what a journey, for him to become the co-founder of 12 Rounds, which is what UBX now. And I remember sitting with him at Toowong. We had this conversation when it was the first club, and he was on the precipice of success or failure. And we talked through some of the strategy where he's at and everything. And full kudos to him, to NJ and all those guys that have done it. That's an incredible journey. And it all started off with an idea, and started off as his job as career as a trainer.
So great, and they're so great to share that. And I've had Tim on the podcast before, and those tuning in, Tim West, he owns UBX, and but just a phenomenal brand, and they've gone worldwide, Japan, killing it, UK, like it's awesome. So you guys, Tim West, MJ, yourself, were down at the big house the other week, down in Parliament House. Tell us about your experience down there. What was all that about?
Yeah, look, when I got asked, obviously, Barry Elvis being the CEO, and then Emmett, we all love Emmett from my zone. He's a great guy. We reckon we should be a parliamentarian. I think he's on that journey. I've been trying to nudge him that way. I was active, this is the first time in many, many years. I mean, credit to all the predecessors, but they're really pushing the agenda to try and get the fitness industry recognised as a genuine preventative provider of preventive healthcare.
Yeah.
So that people have got their studios, got their gyms. Basically, we've got a population for the first time that I've ever remember. We used to give money out to starving nations. Now obesity is surpassed malnutrition, which is incredible. It's frightening, and kids as young as 8 and 9.
Crazy. Yeah. And I mean, people out there aren't getting any skinnier, right? It's just keep going up, that number.
Yeah. So look, it was a CEO forum, and we actually had politicians from both sides, bipartisan, and it's the first time that they're actually acknowledging publicly. They know that the social costs, the mental costs, the financial costs, the burden to the taxpayers to going forward. So, sometimes cutting a ribbon at a hospital gets you more votes than saying in 5 years' time, this preventative healthcare is going to be better than just relying on drugs all the time.
Yeah.
So look, the short of the story was helping to lobby and be a voice that the parliamentarians, bipartisan, both recognise that there's some initiatives and investing into the health industry and actually providing initiatives are going to benefit. It's going to get them votes, but importantly, it's going to actually benefit what is an aging population, and it's going to means that we can all just go, okay, well, they're great, but you're paying your taxes now, and a greater slice of your tax or increased taxes are going to go towards your parents' healthcare in the future if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, so good, such a great cause. Let's flip back to World Gym now. And I want to talk to you about leadership. And so, I mean, in your position at CEO, you've stepped into the role of leadership. And what does it mean to you to be in that role, and what experiences have you had?
Yeah, it puts a smile on my face because they didn't have a head office. So part of the gig was to create that head office, that team, bring it together. And you are only as good as the people around you. I'm just one piece. I see myself as a service leader. I'm of service to the business, to the team, and to the community. So it's, there's different types of leadership, but my leadership's based probably from my experiences. Some great lessons I learned in my law enforcement, being involved in special operations, and that you relied on people having to have your back. So it's about trust. It's about empowering people. It's actually about training, development, succession. So I call it the 5 A's in my own thing. I look for people with the right attitude, the right approach, the appetite, and they've got to be agile as well. So you've got to have that aptitude to do this. So I'm looking for all those things. So, my recruitment is pretty simple. Again, it dates back to my days when people had to have my back and vice versa. One, do I like you? Because if I don't like you, then it doesn't matter how qualified you are. And typically, if I'm recruiting, I actually put it to the team because you want the right fit. Even though
culturally,
yeah. and importantly, the values. Because the second thing goes without saying is trust. Again, I can pick a bullshitter from a mile away, and nothing worse than a bad bullshit artist, right?
Yeah.
So the last part is I'm probably not HR correct, but it's, are you capable? Because if you've got the capability, you've got the passion, and you've got a growth mindset, you want to be part of an organisation that's got a growth mindset. So it's about picking the right people and actually finding their circle of excellence and being part of the process to actually empower them and give them enough space that they can be in their lane and just go for it. And that's really inspiring for me to see that progression and succession with the team.
Beautiful. Love hearing it. It's like the thing that Stephen Covey, you manage things, you lead people, and you watch that, you give people that opportunity to go and flourish, and you see what the result of that is.
Yeah, look, the culture's the key. You want to, you go hard, but you want to have fun. Like, we've actually created a band at head office. So people walking into head office today will see my drums set up there for tonight's rehearsal. We've got one of the directors on lead guitar. We've got two club managers that play lead guitar, bass and lead. And then I've got a guy who does social work out there who does music for social work therapy as our lead singer. So, so if you walk into tonight, it's that.
This is located inside the head office.
It's at our head office. I think I've put a bit of a goal for everyone that before we start doing proper gigs next year, the litmus test is we're going to have a warehouse.
Yeah.
It's going to be mic'd up. We're going to invite family, friends. You're going to be coming along. That Metallica's Enter Sandman's one of our songs.
Yeah.
And basically, if we get the thumbs down, well, we know we suck in that one. If we get the thumbs up, well, okay, we'll put that
we'll
on.
Go and have a crack. Yeah. And for those tuning into this and unaware, we're off to Metallica.
Yeah.
November 2025. We've got the corporate box, Suncorp, Brisbane, and I'm going, okay, we've got to fill this with 14 people. Okay, who do I know who's Metallica fan? One of the first I reached out to, like, are you in? You're like, yeah, let's go, boys.
Oh, yeah, well, Big John, he loves his Metallica. Even though we've got a set list we've got to go through rehearsal, he can't help himself. He starts off with a riff, and he wants us to crank into one of these other Metallica songs and say, mate, we've got to come back to the list. So we're looking forward to that, and it's going to be a highlight for next year.
Yeah. When did you start drumming? What age?
Believe it or not, I started at the age of 10. I was one of those kids that just smashed the shit out of the pots and pans. I literally ruined them all. The wooden spoon that my mum used to smack my ass with, I used to use as drumsticks, and she finally got me onto a drum kit. And I was doing gigs at the age of 12 years of age. And one of the funniest experiences was I played this band in Canberra, and one of the lead guitarists was the Swedish ambassador's son. He had a music career, and insane. Anyway, this is before mobile phones, right? So we put it out there to some friends. We're going to be doing a party on the embassy grounds in Canberra, Swedish embassy, right? Now, I kid you not, I don't know how the word travelled fast, but by the end of the night, all I saw, there was between 500 and 1,000 people on the lawns of the embassy.
Wow.
Eventually, and we're playing outdoors, and each one of those guys ended up being, and they went on to become really great musos. But by the end of the night, we got shut down by the police. And I just remember going back across the grounds afterwards, and there was bottles and everything. There was undies, and God knows what on. I think they were worried about a diplomatic, issue coming up with that. So I started at the age of 10.
Oh, super cool. And still loving it, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the thing is, look, you think about, as you're getting older, the thing for me is I actually want to be able to, I don't want to be, for my 15 or 20 years, at the end of my life, basically just being a hermit. The whole role of what I do with my health and fitness and everything is so that I can go hard and enjoy the lifestyle activities I do. So, neuroplasticity, thinking about the neural pathways, being a drummer, it's fantastic for my, for that system. I just, for me going, it doesn't matter if I'm playing in front of a crowd of 500 people or just in that studio. It's the connection that you make. And it's actually, I think it's actually cathartic to have a bit of a break from just the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, phenomenal.
And it's actually a leveler too. So it doesn't matter whether you're a director, whatever role you are, you just walk in there, park your egos at the door and get into it.
Yeah, I see you around your Harley plenty of times as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I've just started organising a yearly ride, and we've got suppliers, and we did a 2-day ride, which was involved, it's all the hinterlands. And last year, one of our suppliers, I was doing this check to see everyone's, point check. One of the guys was missing, and I went back, and he stored his bike in a corner, and he dropped it, and he's laying on his shoulder. He said, I'm all right. By the time we got to Byron Bay last year, the shoulder was out here. So, look, all these things, both Mike and John ride bikes as well. So, look, it's. I think the whole thing about it is, when you fill your cup in terms of what you do with work, you build great connections through your work and friendship, and having those lifestyle activities that you can connect on a different level. Yeah, that all adds to the vibe.
Super cool, love it. All right, so let's talk about the recent, the partial acquisition that's just happened. Let's talk about what the future of World Gym looks like. So I guess first of all, how many clubs are there in Australia, and what does the plan look like?
Look, we've 47 clubs now. We just pumped out, another 10 clubs this year. We've got 6 in pre-sales right now, so we'll be in the 50s early in the first quarter. We've got 12 lined up to open next year, and that's without any more, without any acquisitions. Now that the acquisition has happened, I think it certainly, as I said at the start, that'll accelerate the growth. So the pipeline's incredibly healthy for us. I'm looking forward to having those discussions so we can map out the roadmap. I've already had some ideas around where I thought their opportunities were for us. So it'd be great to collaborate in that space as well.
Yeah, huge. And I look at that and I go, there's a huge number of personal trainers, because I guess at most World Gyms, conservatively, what are we talking? We're up to maybe 10 PTs or more?
Yeah.
In some of the bigger clubs, obviously a lot more, but...
it's interesting you raise that, because, I just looked at my local club of the day, and there's 12 full-timers in there, and we think back to that discussion about health work. So while I've got 12 good trainers, and they're guns, right?
Yeah.
I remember going over to Les Mills in Auckland, and I think there was like 80 trainers in this club.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I think what I want to do, this is a great discussion, but, there's opportunity for us to have far more trainers. The challenge is that when you just got a rental system, people think, if you bring another 5 trainers on, you're sort of cutting my grass, basically. Well, I don't see how it's possible. But I think there's an opportunity, Brad, for us to actually introduce a bit of a hybrid model, because, as much as there's going to be some that are going to make it straight away, there's quite a few that find it a challenge. They've got the personality, they've got the technical skills, but to actually develop those connections and that sales business side takes a bit of time. It's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to be looking at some hybrid versions, so that there can be employees and also progression, and they'll come to a tipping point. They can either stay as an employee, have the sense. Well, they're not so much entrepreneur, but they like the security and of having a good salary. and they can stay in an environment which is safe, secure. Or there could be those that go, you know what, I'm going to level up and go to the next one. I want to be a contractor.
Yeah, and it's exactly the way me and you both started, right? We both started as gym instructors.
Yeah.
There was a job called the gym instructor. And how'd you get good at programming? Well, you punched out hundreds of them, right? And so I guess what we saw happen is that the role of gym instructor really sort of disappeared in many ways in many places, right? Not only here, but around the world. And so I guess this provides the opportunity for people to step back into that role, but do it from a personal training perspective, and have all the benefits of that without the onus of having to run their own business if that's not for that.
100%. I think one of the biggest problems for people generally per se is it doesn't matter, with all due respect to your RTO, people can come out from an RTO, and I know that I sat with other business owners in the past, and they'd be critical of some RTOs, and I just stay silent because I actually rate, for me, they come out qualified. That's the thing.
Right.
Maybe you've got personal trainer on your back.
Yeah.
You're deemed by the public to be trained. I actually used to think, well, it doesn't matter whether you're green because we're going to invest and develop you. And that's why that in that model, you absolutely need to have providing resources so that you can have the confidence that you can take someone who's got the personality, the aptitude, the appetite for it, but they need the schooling of it to get them there. Because, I never forget that we talk about PTs, but physios, a lot of them used to drop out in the first 3 months if they didn't make it as well. Whereas while we were gym instructors, we built up a repertoire of tools, of exercises, so we became unconsciously competent. We'd sit with someone, we'd look at them, we could pretty much see posture, we'd go, I know what's going on here. Here's a program, but you're relating to the person on a personal level. That takes time to do that. So I think those hours do it. And look, one of the funny things that I still think back is I know what you were charging back in the day. When I think back 24 years ago, what I was charging, I think the average trainer was charging, believe it or not, about $35-40, right?
Yeah.
And I was charging $65 a session back then, and then someone said to me one day, I said, why do you think I'm charging that? And they said to me, politely, because, you're better. I said, bullshit. I said, we both know that's bullshit, but there's a perception that I'm probably better. But I think Brad was probably $200 to $300 at that stage. But, by default, one guy asked me one day, look, do you mind if I bring one of my mates on? And I said, yeah, but it's $90. And then he said, next week, can I mind if I bring Brad along? I said, yeah, it's 110. And all of a sudden I was doing these small group training sessions, and I went from 65 to 110 24 years ago. And then after that, same as you, I thought, I wasn't going to make the money that I wanted to make or what I was getting charged as a business. So it didn't matter whether I was one or three people, it was 110. And I never changed my rate down after that point.
Yeah. So it's such a powerful thing, putting a price on your time, going, okay, when I'm in the gym, physically in the gym, trading price, exchanging time for money, what am I not doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to, and as you grow in a business, that was the turning point for me, right? As I started to grow a team of trainers, it was like 2003 was the time I went from 110 to 220. And then 2006, where I went from 220 to 440. And it was like, at that point in time, down at Healthworks, the gym we spoke of, like we said, not a huge gym. I mean, it was probably about 300 square meters. I had myself plus a team of 13 trainers there.
Yeah.
And Andrew would have had maybe 7-8 trainers of his own, so there's well over 20 trainers there. And, that was at a gym that had 1,000, 1,200 members, right?
So what do you think was the stumbling block for people not realizing their self-value? Why do you think they undervalue themselves, or why do they?
Well, look, we see it happen even now in the industry. Someone arrives in the fitness industry and they get qualified as a PT, and this happens all the time, thousands every year. All right, come into somewhere. All right, what can you earn? Oh, well, everyone else is charging $80. All right, well, that's, I guess, what you can earn in this industry, right? So,
yeah.
So I guess that's point number one. And I also get it, for someone who's brand new, you've got to make a start, right? And again, it's not up for me to tell you what you should charge, but more importantly, to go, well, hey, here's what's possible.
Yeah.
The next part is that people, like, the first sell's got to be in themselves. If you look yourself in the mirror and go, hey, I'm well and truly worth 120, 150, whatever it might be, for the exchange of this 45 minutes of time. And the next part is for a lot of people not looking at it from a business perspective, going, well, okay, if I've got an income goal or a target, and then I've also got the exchange of time for money, what does that equate to? And what does that look like?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Because again, what we find is people get driven by an emotional response, right? So it's like I start thinking for other people, right? They won't pay that, or that it's not up for you to think for other people, make decisions for other people. It's really up for you to make that decision, right?
It's interesting too to say that, and you know that demographic. I mean, 50% of that isochrone of that business was water. So you know, when you think if the people are understanding about businesses, you think about the radius of your demographic of drive time. Yeah. Well, 50% of that business was there, and there's a river. So
correct.
You were really drawing from, and it wasn't a really affluent area there at the time either.
Yeah, and not only that, it was hidden. It was underneath the roof of a development. So yeah, we had to get great at external marketing, and like we said, every time I was selling PT, I just sold gym memberships at the same time, because I was like, well, let's just make this thing as easy as possible. Because we had some people that come to us and they'd book in for 3 PT sessions a week. They go, and I got to pay $15 for the gym. You know?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I typically use the analogy. I say it's a small investment for a great return. You know, you look at it like you've got a pain point. You know, you've got a hole in your tooth. You've got no choice. You want to get that fixed. You want a solution. You're going to invest in it and do it. You know, I suppose that HealthWorks was a really good. It was a you set the benchmark, Brad, and I suppose I'd be interested to say, well, what message would you say to people, you know, for example, in Sydney, out of Western Sydney, you know, they're saying, well, we don't have the same demographic there. How do you actually approach that?
Yeah. I think there's enough. We see it happen all the time at Trainer HQ. So we've got clients spread all around Australia. You know, we're about 20% of our clients in New Zealand, some internationally. Wow. So I guess what you got to do is you do need to consider the demographic, and then you might go, okay, what model suits that demographic? So in the extreme, if there is a place where you go, charging $400 for a single one-on-one PT session, it's just not going to cut it. Yeah, maybe the semi-private 4-on-1 model does, right? Where I charge $40 per person per session. So now I'm earning $160 a session.
Yeah,
that might be one option, right? So. And then the other part is for me, I didn't set out one day and just go, hey, I want to become Australia's highest paid PT. It was on the back end of going, I'm building a business and a team of trainers here, right? So I still wanted to lead by example. So when we're doing 250 plus 45-minute PT sessions a week, I'm only doing 10 of them, right?
Yeah.
Which is 7.5 hours of work in the business, because where was my time most valuable? Well, I was out there building the business, doing the marketing, finding the new trainers, educating the trainers and developing them. So again, it wasn't just going, all right, I want to just throw these rates through the roof. With the turning point from 220 to 440 was my goal was to do 10 sessions a week. I remember there's a period in time, and we used to track all the numbers and metrics. I'm doing 18, 19 PT sessions a week, and I'm going at $200+ bucks. I go, this is all well and good, but it's taken me away from what I need to be doing.
Yeah. Well, you certainly. But I think that's a really good point. It's one thing to be able to do it yourself and be able to provide a system so you can scale it and teach other people to do it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So fun days. And we could talk all day about it.
Yeah.
Plenty of PTs in your day. I mean, the other part is, you've seen plenty, right? But the industry, there's just more trainers coming through. Like people say, the industry's flooded, all that sort of stuff. But people out there need help. People out there aren't getting any skinnier, right? And
well, the simple fact. Well, we talk facts. There's, talk numbers thing. When you think about it, depending on which study you look at, America's about 21% involved in going to studios or something. Australia's about 15%, right? So we're not even at the level of what America is. Sure, there's a greater population, but there's, people are saying to me 10 years ago when there's, when there's a new change when we went to boutique clubs, and then when the 247 market came in and so on, and the big boxes are back, everyone's going, we're saturated the market. Not a chance. When you actually look at the actual active participation and membership percentage, there's huge opportunities. And, the great thing is that people, the space that people are really moving towards is longevity. And it's not just actually living longer. They want a better quality of life. People like myself, I surf, I skate, all those things. Believe it or not, I don't put a number on it in terms of you've got a chronological number, but people are trying to improve their biological age. And so how to do that? The wearable technology is actually becoming one of our friends, because people are going, wow, I know if I do my steps, if I knew I'd do that, I'm actually got the biological age of a 35-year-old. So the ego's talking to them as well. But so they want to get the results. They want to actually get the feedback. And the best way to do that is with a trainer. So I actually think there's fantastic opportunities for the traders. And again, when I think about our clubs and how many we've got, and the scope, we're going to need at least 140, 150 traders next year, right? We're going to have a great progression and development for those people. I mean, part of the reason, it was a nice invitation to come to Inspire, but, there may be some people are there that go, you know what, I'm actually in that area. I'd like to come and work at your business.
Yeah, love it. So good. Yeah, it's just a great brand. And yeah, I agree. I look at the industry and I just go, there is just so much opportunity there and all these great facilities opening up and they're just getting bigger and better, right? Amazing for the consumer as well.
Well, again, if you thought about if we go on ratio numbers, 1 in 3 was in the club. What was the tipping point of that business? You and your team, right? So that's just put it into perspective. You can go into a community, you can go into a different demographic. If you've got the actual, as I said, the approach, the aptitude, the appetite, and you're agile, which means you're able to adapt as well. I think you can be successful anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we say it all the time. If you're a startup PT, let's say you're going to go, all right, I love the sound of this World Gym. I'd love to go and be at one of those World Gyms. I'm a brand new PT into the industry, and as a rep-based trainer, we go, okay, cool. You go into the club, and let's say super conservatively, you're going to charge $80 for a 45-minute session, right? In my opinion, we're almost in 2025. I still think that's on the conservative side. However, let's be super conservative. You go, all right, if I'm going to now get myself into that position, I'm going to do 5 sessions a day, 5 days a week. These are 45-minute sessions. That's now 25 sessions a week, which equates to a little bit less than 20 hours of exchange of time for money. 25 times $80, that's $2,000, right?
Yeah.
That's the equivalent of $100K. And again, we say it time and time again, and you go, how many clients do I need to do that? Well, let's say if the average client's trained with me twice a week, some will do 1, some will do 3, but on average, let's make it 2. It's 12 or 13 people. You walk into a club where you've got, like you guys have got thousands, right? How many at Stafford have we got on the road?
Thousands.
4,000. I'm not sure what the number is, but you go, all right, and I only need let's say 15 people, right?
Yeah, I mean, a classic is Westy, actually. If you use him as a good example. I can still recall him coming back from overseas, and he literally just said to me, I don't need you to give me any leads, right? Do you mind if I just walk the floor? And within 2 weeks, he was booked up solid. Amazing.
Yeah.
And what was the difference? What was his point of difference? You know what? He just basically walked up and spoke to people and had a conversation with them, asked them how they're going. I mean, if we think about everyone that's coming there, most people are still coming for their social experience. They look for that vibe as well. But they've also, at some point in time, they go, I've reached that sticky point. I just would like to get, say, another 2 or 3 kgs, or I'd like to be leaner or bigger or whatever. It's understanding that approach and how to go about it, really.
Yeah, so good. All right, well, we've chatted about a lot of different brands, and anyone who's tuned into this, look, I'd encourage you to actually Google this stuff. Get on Google UBX, Google Viva Leisure and the acquisition of a portion of World Gym, Google Total Fusion Platinum, and have a look at that brand, because here's the thing, right? I always say success leaves clues, and you go look at the people that you've been around, the impact you've had, and the way that you've played a part in all those different things, which is just phenomenal. So I'd encourage everyone to actually find out more, do your research and see what's out there, and because there is just an abundance of opportunity. Let's now talk about outside, World Gym, because you're obviously making a huge impact. There's plenty more to do. Outside of your personal fun stuff, what other missions do you have?
Yeah, look, I like being involved in community stuff. I think that stems back from my time when Kamari asked me to do work with their kids. So I've been involved in a number of different initiatives out there. But one of the things, obviously, I speak on a lot of panels. I enjoy. I've got some different stories to tell. I've got a few good stories to tell. Some funny experiences from obviously my early careers and different careers I've been involved in. But there's some really good examples of lessons that I learnt along the way. So I enjoy speaking to different audiences about some of those lessons and how you can approach that and apply that to your business to be successful. And the other side is that, I'm a bit of a check-in mentor coach. I like doing that because I've done it for startup businesses and young entrepreneurs. I like to see them succeed. They've got purpose, but I also want to be there to make a difference for people for whatever reason. It could be in a dark spot. No, I'm not qualified as a psychologist, a sociologist, or any of those things, but really just to help people maintain their purpose. So that's something that I've been involved in, and I want to continue to do that.
Love it. So good, man. So good. So much energy to give and so much experience. Let's say someone is tuning into this, and just like we had the privilege of you coming and being at our Inspire 24 event, if they wanted to book you or get in contact, what's the best way for them to do that?
Easy. Yeah, just go to roger@rogerwesterman.com, and you've got my number on there. You can flip me an email.
Yeah,
we'll do a call, have a chat.
Yeah,
and just see if there's an alignment there as well.
Love it. So it's roger@rogerwesterman.com.
Correct.
Yeah. So all they can reach out. I'll make sure we put that in. Because we put this on Spotify, we've got it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and those of you tuning in, look, if you haven't done it yet, make sure you subscribe so that you get notified of these. We have a multitude of great people like Rog who come here and just willingly share their experience of the industry. And our mission is to make a big difference, right? We want to raise the standard of professionalism in this industry. We know that there is so much untapped opportunity still for people to explore their entrepreneurial journey and create the type of successful fitness business, the lifestyle that they really want. And that's what we're passionate about. So
yeah, look, I think you get it. I'm very passionate about most things. My tagline that is actually I made sure that it was on the block signatures for all of us, is about changing lives through fitness. It's changing lives in a holistic way, but in a authentic way too, because, people are often trying to find what their purpose is, but if you can just be your best self. And if you be your best self, it's about then, being persistent to achieve those goals. I mean, we all started off as personal trainers.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
And, the people that we've spoken about, and there's many people that we can speak about in this industry that they started off as personal trainers. So you can have an incredibly successful career in that space alone, which is what your business has been.
Yeah.
But it is also a great stepping stone for other aspects to become an entrepreneur in this space. But also, I think, it sounds a bit cliche, but to actually make a difference and to be able to do it in a way that you're doing it, an authentic way to affect people's lives in a positive way, to walk away from that, that's the greatest reward that you can. As a leader, to see the team have success, share the wins together, even when it's tough times, a challenge, but overcome those, and then grow into, to be successful or move on to greater and better things. That's what I see as part of that's what inspires me anyway.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Westerman, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure having you as part of the Train HQ podcast, mate. So looking forward to many more exciting times ahead for us in our collaborations, and also, hey, who knows what the future holds for all of us. So thanks again, sir.
Well, Brad, right back at you. Total respect for everything that you and your organisation and Jason and everyone have done. The fact that you've got that school going and the way and your clients is a testimony to, the great success that you've achieved yourself. But look forward to actually going to Metallica with you, banging our heads together there. And hopefully we'll get you to come along to one of our gigs in the near future too.
Oh, mate, I'll be there with you.
Been a pleasure. Thanks.
Love it. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Westerman.
Cheers, mate.